Hello, everybody. Welcome to our November 9th meeting of Fresno City Toastmasters. I'm going to read our club mission statement for everybody. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. As always, thank you, Michael, for allowing us to use your room.
You're welcome.
We're the only one here today. And I believe the only announcement I have is we are going to take club off the week of Thanksgiving. So that will be November 23rd. We are not going to be holding a meeting. We'll take that off. So everybody can mark it on their calendars. I believe everybody is here today. Heather is doing your speech.
That's it.
I think she emailed us.
Heather? Yeah, she emailed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. So we will have one speech from Heather. And I'm going to pass the podium over to our Toastmaster today to introduce our topic. Please welcome Mr. Joey Myers.
Thank you, Chanel. So our topic for today was going to actually be a fun one if Sarah was able to make it, but Sarah being in Italy, it's late. She probably had something going on. Love to hear the history of the world is our theme, coming from Sarah after living in Italy for, I think this is going on month 2 or 3, maybe 3 now. I think she's been there for 2. History of the world. One of my favorite things is history. I like military history. And there's a podcast out there for any of you that like the podcast, especially when it comes to history and military history specifically. It's called Hardcore History. I think it's Dan Carlin. It's not the comedian. So I might be getting his name wrong, but the last name's Carlin. And there was a 4 series. I think it's like hour and a half per series or episode. And he goes, really good storyteller. And this particular one's about, he says it's Genghis Khan, but we've all heard it as Genghis Khan. So it's Genghis Khan and the Mongols back, I think, of the 14th century or whatever, when I think China was the world or Southeast Asia power at that time. And the Mongols were this savage group of people that were gaining steam and power. And he talked about back in the day where you used to have all these standing armies that would get out there and they'd have these huge supply chains and that would be bringing in food and water and supplies and ammunition and whatever. They didn't have guns back then, but their spears and whatnot. And what they used to do is they would train, really, we can learn something from these people, and they would train their males and their kids, their children, as early as I think 3 or 4 years old to ride a horse. Their women would get trained from an early age to fire a bow and arrow. And the purpose of that was if the males left to go rape and pillage some other town or whatever, that if another tribe came in to theirs while they were gone, that the women and the children could defend themselves. I thought that was a great point. It's something that we think about in our family with training our kids in martial arts or whatever it is. Just a really interesting thing when we look back on history and we look at history from groups that are like the Mongols or the Chinese or the British or the Romans, right? We can learn some interesting things about how societies rule and civilizations, how they're built, how they're maintained, how they fall. Really cool stuff. So that's my rendition on history of the world. I know Sarah's would have been definitely much different. So with that, I want to transition to our general evaluator to introduce our team, who is Ms. Farron Jacobson. Welcome, Farron.
Thanks, Joey. I will be the general evaluator today. I will give an evaluation of the entire meeting, and I also have a team who is working with me to evaluate everyone's speaking skills. First, I will bring up our grammarian to introduce the word of the day, Michael Wu.
Should I get up there? Thank you. I was assigned this role in the last minute. I did not know that until I saw the program. The word of the day I can think of is I use the word I encountered once before in the club, which is hubris. Hubris meaning is, I think, synonym to excessive self-confidence, and sometimes will lead you to failure because you have too much hubris. So that is the word of the day, and hope we can use all conscientiously try to use this word in our speeches. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I am the Zoom master of the day, so I also put our word of the day into the chat. Hubris is a noun, excessive pride or self-confidence. Next up, we have our out-counter, Joey Myers.
I think, Michael, I think Aaron got it.
What's that, Chanel?
I was just telling him that Farron had already looked up the definition.
Oh, got it. Cool. Yeah, thanks for doing that for him, Farron. So I'm the odd counter. I'll be counting the odds, ums, likes, all the crutch words and all the good stuff. We don't have any guest here, so I won't take too much extra time on that. So thank you, Farron.
Sweet. I am counting your odds, Joey,
Thank you.
to let you know. And next up, we have our timer, Kalani. You're muted, Kalani.
Hey everyone, I actually didn't know it was timer, but that's okay. I will be timing everyone's speeches today, table topics, and I will be giving a report at the end of the meeting. I don't really know what I'm going to do for the red, green, yellow, but give me about 30 seconds and I will find something.
Trick or treat.
Sounds good. Thank you for jumping into the role. Let's see. The last person is myself. I'm also serving as Zoom master today. I started recording the meeting. I will manage the chats. I will let people into the meeting, although I think we're already here. And that's my job as Zoom master. I will introduce the Toastmaster to introduce our speaker. So welcome back, Joey.
Thank you, Farron. And if for those of you like Michael Wu and Kalani who got roles at the last minute, you had one last ounce of hubris. Well, now we get that humble pie when you get a roll thrown right into your lap. So way to go. Welcome to Toastmasters. We have one speech today, Heather. I had a speech, but like I think Chanel gave hers last time, it required some audience involvement. And so I'll be doing mine either next week or the week after that. So with Heather, I have hers info here. So she's in the presentation mastery pathway. She's on level 2 speech number 2. And the speech is titled All Around the World. She's staying right within our theme. That's awesome. 3 years ago, Heather and her husband, Kyle, embarked on a 2-week honeymoon around the world. Memories were made, lessons were learned, and a once-in-a-lifetime trip makes for a fun story to tell. Please enjoy. Thank you, and put your hands up in the air or together if you're live for Heather's speech titled All Around the World. Take it away, Heather.
Thank you, Joey, and everyone. So question, have any of you flown domestically? Okay. Have any of you flown internationally? Okay. So it seems like everybody at least has some sort of experience, maybe some horror stories as well, along with the good about flying internationally. And I ask because, I'm curious about similar experiences and see if maybe you've had the same experience as me. So as you know, today's theme is the history of the world. So I wanted to share with you all my story about the time I took a trip around the world. For years, I told my husband that I dreamed about traveling around the world. Well, for our honeymoon, he took that quite literally and booked a 2-week trip around the world. The first leg of the trip was pretty stressful. Our flight out from Fresno to San Francisco was already delayed, which naturally snowballed into further delays. We had to sprint from one end of the terminal from domestic to international as soon as we got off the plane from San Francisco. And as we were sprinting to the gate, they were slowly closing the doors. Now, I'm not sure if you know, but once they close those doors, they don't technically have to open them again for you. But when they saw us sprinting, they slowed it down, told us to take a breather, and we made it to the first international flight, which was Tokyo, Japan. Kyle is a huge fan of the Japanese culture and was like a little kid everywhere we went. We ate authentic ramen, met some of the friendliest people who directed us to the Akihabara district, which is perfect for gamers and anime lovers. On our last night there, we wanted to visit an owl cafe. It was getting late, it was raining, our GPS was not having it. Luckily, a nice gentleman understood what we were trying to do and where we wanted to go and graciously guided us there. Looking back on that experience, we were lucky in more ways than one. The second place we visited was my favorite, Singapore. At this time, I was reading the book Crazy Rich Asians, so it was exciting for me to truly see it firsthand, all the places described in the book. Singapore is the cleanest place you will ever visit, but it also is one of the most humid places at 98% constant humid. As soon as you leave your hotel room, you're soaked. So I did the only logical thing I could think of, and that was to rent 2 electric scooters for our trip there. Kyle laughed at this idea at first, but quickly realized that we were unstoppable. Well, unstoppable until your new wife somehow finds a way to demagnetize your key as far as away from where you started as you can. So my new husband was literally my knight in shining armor on his trusty scooter. The third leg of the trip was where things got a bit dicey. Now you're probably wondering, how do these 2 younglings afford a trip like this? Well, your answer is my hubristic father-in-law, Dave, who met up with us to introduce us to his girlfriend. I would like to note that not even 2 weeks later, she went from girlfriend to wife. So I'll just let that sink in. This is also the part of the trip where I made the biggest mistake of my life. We went to a Japanese style restaurant in Bali called Omni and ordered a family dinner. A sashimi was included and no one was eating it, and I felt bad because it was expensive. So me being the person that I am, I ate it all. It wasn't until our final leg of the trip that I realized that I had contracted colitis. If you don't know what colitis is, I like to describe it as food poisoning on steroids. And my friends that are in the Navy like to call it the double dragon. I'm sure you can use your imagination. The final leg of our trip was Istanbul, Turkey. We had 2 days, but on the last day, we couldn't even leave the hotel room. I was so sick. I tried to convince Kyle to go, but he wouldn't leave my side, which I am grateful for. Thankfully, we did get to go to the Grand Bazaar, which, if you don't know, that is the largest and oldest covered market in the world. So we at least got to go visit and see that, and that was a sight to see, and I wish I get to go back. My favorite part too was seeing the faces on the sellers when they realized that we just weren't some naive Americans on our own, but we had a native Turkish friend with us, Lila, who had no problem handling the prices for us. So I was very, very thankful for her. And I'm not lying to you when I say that she's a Spitfire, and also argued with a soldier holding a machine gun when she went to go drop us off at our hotel. There were armed guards everywhere and we didn't understand why, and she just wanted to drop us off at the front door. Well, they wouldn't allow her to. And it turns out that the president at that time was staying and hosting a conference at the same hotel that Kyle and I were staying at. And it was quite discomforting to have, guns pointed at you as you're walking up to your hotel, questioned and interrogated while you're there. We promised, not to speak of it until we landed safely back in the States, where we knew we were safe. But the flight home from there was the longest and most miserable day of my life. As soon as we landed, my mom took me straight to the hospital and my dad took Kyle to go get a cheeseburger. At the end, Kyle ended up getting sick like me. He ended up getting bronchitis. So we were a bunch of itises and we were dead to the world for a month. And I mean, we did say till death do us part, but we did not think it would be so quick. Reflecting on it 3 years later, I realized that this trip truly solidified our bond and it made a adventurous beginning to our marriage. And I am convinced that every couple should travel internationally because that is a true test of marriage. So many lasting memories were made on this trip around the world. And well, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, you are correct about that. You do not know the strength of relationship until you go internationally with your significant other. That is, I got some of you here have heard some of my stories. I have some more stories I'm sure that I'll share that are much like Heather's. So thank you, Heather, for sharing that. At this time, we will move on to the table topics portion of the meeting, and I will call up our table topics master, Miss Chanel West.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Heather's speech was a good segue into our table topics because she put our mind in a global arena by talking about her trip around the world. And our table topics today, in line with our theme of world history, are also going to be on a global scale, considering the history of the world. I have come up with 12 questions that all have to do with history in some way. And I'm going to have you guys choose a number 1 through 12, and I will read you the specific corresponding question. I will give a bit of a preface to this and saying that feel free to share as much or as little as you would like about your opinion on things if it does come up, but let's remember that our values in Toastmasters are being inclusive and respecting everybody's opinions. So with that, would anybody like to volunteer to be in the hot seat first and get a question thrown at them? Ooh, Denny is volunteering. Thank you. Which number 1 through 12 would you like to pick?
6.
6. All right. What is a story or lesson you have learned from history that has impacted you or helped to shape your decisions in some way?
Okay, I want you to repeat that if you would. I missed one word on that. Right at the beginning.
What is a story or lesson you have learned from history that has impacted you or helped to shape your decisions in some way?
I'm going to go along with the Bible.
Okay.
I look at the first 5 chapters of the Bible, which is the Talmud, and that's all historical. And I listen to stories from that and try to tie into my own life. And each story brings a new message to me of how I can behave or see things differently or act differently or try to be better. So that's my short answer to that question.
Thank you. I think I caught most of that. Your voice is sounding a bit muffled on our end. I'm not sure if it's the same for people on Zoom. But thank you for sharing. Okay, 6 is out, so who would like to go next? Numbers 1 through 12, except for number 6. Everybody's gonna have to go, so.
Farron picked number 2.
Farron picking number 2, okay. If you could travel back to a specific year or time period in CE, so, or some people call it AD, which would be Common Era or Anno Domini, so 4 BC. Which year or time period would you choose to travel back to and why?
Wow. I need to think a little bit. Maybe it's my hubris, but I would take myself back to what year was it? 1912 that the Titanic sailed? Is that right? I would go back to that year and do whatever I could to prevent the Titanic from sinking, or at least killing so many people, right? I just feel like I could do something to help history in some way. I know that there's a butterfly effect and that things wouldn't happen the way that they happen now if you prevent something from the past, but I would still want to like have some kind of impact on a huge event like that. That's my short answer.
I like that your thought in going back in time is to prevent something bad from happening. I think when I was thinking of that question, I was thinking of like, oh, what time period would I most want to experience? Probably part of the butterfly effect of that would be that Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet would never become movie stars. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Depends on how you look. Thank you, Farron. Who would like to go next?
I'll go number 7.
Joey, number 7. Who is a historical figure that is no longer living that you admire? And why do you admire them?
So many. I think way back, like with Benjamin Franklin, I'm going to mention a couple and I'll focus on one. Michelangelo. When we start talking about that era where I think that was 16th, 17th, 18th century, somewhere in there. Those people were really good at being good at a lot of different things. They were a physicist. They were artists. They were an engineer. They were what do you call them when the blacksmith? They had a bunch of different hobbies that were pretty significant hobbies. Philosopher, Aristotle. They had a grand general view of the world instead of, I think today we get a little too specific in one area. And what I've learned, especially with my baseball hitting business in the beginning, a lot of people didn't like what I taught because what I taught was outside of their silo of knowledge. Most of the time they stayed in that baseball, softball silo of knowledge, and they didn't go outside to, which I thought the next logical step was to look at physics, look at the swing through a physics lens or an engineering lens or a biomechanical lens. It's coming back there. I mean, we're talking about back 2013, 2014. It's coming back to that now. People are starting to wake up to that idea, that concept that we have to get outside our silo of knowledge to develop a little bit better and broader idea of a specific topic. It doesn't have to be, if we're looking at politics, we can look at politics through a religious view. We can look at politics through a scientific view. We can look at politics through an artistic view. We can look at it through different lenses. And I think I admire somebody like Benjamin Franklin or Aristotle or Michelangelo because they were really good at doing that, going outside their silo of knowledge.
Good answer. Thank you, Joey. I wonder if part of that is because there was just back then, like there, especially in like Aristotle's time, BC, there was just less knowledge overall to be taken in. We have so much knowledge now; it's almost like you could never learn everything there is to know.
Exactly right. Social media, TV, video games. Yeah, there's a lot now.
Sure. All right. So we've got Heather, Kalani, and Michael.
I guess I'll take number 5.
Okay. All right, I like this question. Which scientific discovery or technological advancement do you think has had the greatest impact on humanity? Or if you don't want to have, you don't have to say the greatest impact, you could just say a large impact or a significant impact.
Okay. I don't know necessarily what would be the largest impact in society. However, one of the largest, hands down, I believe, is the invention or the creation of the computer and the internet. I think more now so than ever, we can see how technology is related to advancements, not only in medicine, but in real world experiences. I mean, right now we're doing this via Zoom. We have NFTs that are hitting the market that people are creating 6-7 figures worth of art. Now it's digitalized. We're talking about Bitcoins and seeing how currency is actually moving from hard money to a cryptocurrency, and kind of the debates about how that's going to affect not only the US market, but the world market. Now that, I mean, we're talking about how China is starting blocks on how they made it illegal to invest in crypto and then how it surged. I think the exposure that the computer and the internet made, or excuse me, created, revolutionized the world. And it's going to continue to revolutionize the world to a next stage that we are kind of in the process of building right now. And that is my answer.
Good answer. I definitely think that the computer is, it's a contender. It's a serious contender for top spot because it has changed so much so rapidly in the way that we live.
Agreed.
I'll go.
Okay,
I'll take number 9.
number 9. All right, if you could choose to have dinner with a historical figure who is no longer living, who would you choose and why?
Okay, so the reason why I'm choosing this person is because my family, about 8 years ago, my dad found this tintype of Billy the Kid, and it was this just Billy the Kid playing croquet with his gang, the Regulators, and it got pretty famous. We had a documentary on National Geographic about it. But despite that and the consistent, evidence saying that this is him, a lot of the Western experts have continuously denied our photos, saying that it's not real, it's not authentic, it's not the real Billy. Why would an outlaw be playing croquet, So I would love to go back and ask, those people, like, is this you? Are you playing croquet? What are you doing? Like, why are you playing croquet? We suspected that they were celebrating like a birthday or something like that. So I would just love to get like an official answer from those people saying, yes, I am Billy the Kid. And, I would love to talk with them too. So it's the Wild West was a crazy time. So I would love to hear some of those stories. And that's my answer.
You said your dad found the photo?
Yeah, it's this big. It's literally a metal tin, and he found it out about 8 years ago. Like I said, there's a documentary on it on National Geographic called Billy the Kid, New Evidence. So it's pretty cool.
Heather, I think I interviewed your dad.
Oh, really? That wouldn't surprise me.
I wrote about that in the Clovis Independent. I
Oh,
just looked up the article right now.
yeah, Randy is my dad.
There you go.
I'm sorry, I'm just curious, like, how did you know, or what made you think that the photo was of Billy the Kid?
So my parents have always had the mentality of buy, sell, trade. They love their history. They've always been in that world of authentication. So my dad has a lot of background in that, and he felt really good about it. I'd actually put it back down initially, and then he's like, you know what, pick it up, and he picked it back up, and the rest is history. So, yeah. But the thing that made it really, there's only one authenticated photo of Billy that the Western world will recognize. With ours, it's the second one, but that's also why it made it so coveted, because there's only one photo of him that we know of.
Thank you.
That's great.
Number 8 taken.
Nope, number 8 is not taken.
All right. Give me number 8.
All right, Michael, number 8. If you could travel back in time and change a specific historical event or situation, what would you change and why? You can go ahead. So they can-
Thank you, Madam Tabletop Master. Question is, if I can travel back in time and change one particular historical event, which one would I choose and why? Of course, I will try to do the most significant event possible to steer the world towards a better place, to steer the world towards less conflicts and more peace and development. I would think I would travel back 2,000 years prior and go talk to those great philosophers which emerged simultaneously during that time. Namely, we got 2,000 years ago, we have people like Muhammad, Jesus, Confucius, and I believe the founder of the Buddhism. And go to talk to all of them and talk to them not to create conflict in the world. Let's come together and give you same kind of philosophy to the world, to everyone. And let's focus our attention on building humanity together to go advance scientifically, to go out of our earth and go into space, instead of trying to tell people that we are better than you and we should try to convince other people to come to our group versus other group. So in this way, I think I can do the best I can to help us go towards a better direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate the emphasis on unity. Okay, our timer, how are we doing on time?
Is that Mike Ellis here? Mike hasn't gone yet, if that's Mike. There he is.
Yeah, I'm here. I'll do number 3. It's not taking 3 or 6.
Awesome. Okay, if you were to go down in history for a certain accomplishment, like an invention, a work of art, a leadership role, a discovery, what would you want to be known for or go down in history for doing?
Oh, wow. Okay, I think that's a great question, and it kind of stumped me. So I think if I had a choice, if I had a legacy to go down, and there was a statue built of me, and the little plaque says Mike was known for something, it would probably be equality and education. And when I say equality and education, I don't mean like more valedictorians or anything. I mean teach people in the way that they learn. And so there's a kind of a movement going on. There's 3 different learning types, and we only really teach to one. And so to expand our knowledge, I think we would have to expand on how we teach all people, not just people that are really good at spelling correctly or grammar, or they can learn the basics of math quickly and memorize things. These people are your artists, your creators, and oftentimes they're shunned upon society for being something different than a college student. And so I would like the equality part to be everyone to respect the way that people learn and the way that people therefore perceive their life. And I would like to be known for maybe changing the way people educate themselves, and then hopefully that would bring some more self-confidence and more understanding of how people are different and why. It's not necessarily a color thing or a cultural thing. It's more of a brain thing. And that's my ramble.
Woo. Thank you for sharing. That's really cool. I agree. I think that we definitely need more of recognizing people's talents and giftings that don't necessarily fit into the traditional educational structure of being academic. Oh, very cool. Okay, again, I don't have a clock in front of me, so are we at time
44.
44? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to pass the podium back over to our general evaluator, Barry, to introduce the evaluation team.
Thank you. Let's introduce our evaluator. Sorry, I was getting the agenda up. Denny Mason will evaluate Heather's speech.
Hi, everyone. Heather, you did a great job on your speech, as always. You had a good presence. You used your space very well. Hand movements, gestures. You were right on topic. You were with our theme today, which was especially interesting. You took us along on a trip with you, and it was very easy to follow along, including getting sick. Thank you very much. I thought you did a great job of bringing each of the locations to us. And if there's anything I thought you could do a little bit, maybe to work on a little bit, I think I saw you looking down a little bit at notes, maybe. And which of course we always use notes, but maybe looking a little bit more into the camera would be the only thing. But I thought you did a great job. Your projection was very good as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Denny. Next, I will call up our timer, Kalani, to see how we did on our time.
Fantastic. Thank you, Farron. All right, so we are going to go ahead and begin with Heather's speech. Heather, I have you in at 7:02. Fantastic. Then we're going to transition to table topics. Ms. Farron, I had you at 42 seconds. Joey, 2:07. Denny, 41 seconds. Myself at 1 minute and 21 seconds. Heather at 1 minute and 17 seconds. Michael at 1:47. And Mike at 1:54. Denny, I had your speech evaluation at 1 minute and 17 seconds. I think it's safe to say when we are doing the roulette questions, our hubris tends to not be as strong, but you know, we will get better. That's why we're here. Great job, everyone.
Thank you, Kalani. I also appreciate that you held up book covers as our colors, blue, yellow, and red. Good impromptu work there. Thank you. And next up is our odd counter, Joey. How do we do with our crutch word?
Thank you, Ms. Farron. Yeah, and I think Kalani hit it on the head when you get that Russian roulette, quote unquote, table topic style, your confidence is a little shaken because you don't know what the question is beforehand. You know what path or theme it is, but you don't know what it is. So starting with Chanel actually did pretty good. I caught one But sometimes it's hard in that room just with the little echo to catch everything over there. It's not as clear as, of course, we'd like it to be. It'd be tough to make it clear. Michael Wu would have to spend probably thousands trying to retrofit that room as an audio type of room with all the padding. It would take just way too much money to do that. So that's what we got. And then Farron, I caught one false start. It was just more of a repeating the same word twice before you started a sentence. And then a kind of like, which I tend to do. And again, I look at transcriptions and I see those and I just edit them out. And you can pretty much take all three of those words, one of those words or all three of them, you can take them all out and the sentence doesn't lose its meaning or anything. Heather, you had a speech, so you had a lot longer to talk today. I thought you did pretty well. Your two choices were and and one of them, so there's a couple other ones, like, there was a couple tisks. And so one of the ones to look out for, and you had what I liked about your speech, you used a lot of humor, because there was a lot of humor looking back now on all the experiences you and your husband had, right? There's a little bit, I just called it, I don't know what to call it, but I called it breathiness. So it's when you lead, something's going to be funny and you lead with like you telegraph that what I'm going to say is funny, right? And that's cool if you mix that in here and there, but it's always funnier to the audience if you don't lead with that first to let us know, like let the actual punchline, let that happen. So I caught quite a few of those that could have taken away, could have done the opposite, not made it funny because you told us that it was going to be funny a couple of times. But I thought it was great use of sarcasm, humor, all that kind of stuff. So, and you had a lot more to say than a lot of us today. Michael Wu, a couple uhs, so not too bad, just two uhs. Kalani, usually Kalani's pretty good, like some of us here. She was pretty good today, but I caught a couple. Usually she's only good for one. I caught two or three ums, a kind of. Again, that's that word I tend to use a lot. You can delete that out and it doesn't lose its meaning. One so and one Denny, I didn't catch any until the end there, until the evaluation. Denny's usually pretty clean as well. One false start. So two words that are repeated and then the sentence goes, and then just one and, which was out of the transition. And Mr. Mike Ellis, I knew that was Mike over there. So you're two, you and Heather today, and 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 that's my report. Oh, Farron, how did I do?
So you also had a few false starts. You had two kind ofs, which you were talking about. one one like, and five so's.
Woo! So as. Thank you, Farron. That's our report.
Of course. Thank you. The last but not least, I'll bring up Mike Wu to see how we did with our word of the day.
Up here. All right. Thank you, Ms. Farron. We did pretty good with our word of the day. Joey Myers, Kalani, Farron, and Heather all use that. And I did not use it myself, so slap on the wrist. That is my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. As for the entire meeting, I think even though we're a small team, we had a really good meeting still. Everyone participated, people took on roles last minute. It still ran really smoothly. We started a little bit late, but we will end on time, it looks like. That's all. I'll turn it back over to our president, Chanel West.
Thank you, Farron. I would like to give out virtual reward to Heather for giving the speech today, and great job. I think you just gave a speech 2 or 3 weeks ago, so great job on continuing to do them. That's really good. Virtual sticker to Joey for taking on the role of Toastmaster last minute, and also to Kalani for either taking on the role or jumping in there if you weren't quite aware that we were already on there. And Michael, we will also sticker to you for coming up with the word hubris last minute. I will also give virtual stickers to everybody actually for participating in the table topics. I know that that was a bit of a challenging one. I think it's good practice for all of us though, as we could feel that was kind of a muscle that needed to be stretched.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for participating. We will fill out the agenda for next week. All right, Karen, I have you down for giving a speech. Does that still work for you on the 16th?
I think so.
Okay, we'll plan it now. And then the 23rd, we're not meeting. I'm gonna put myself down for a speech on November 30th. To speak that week. Can I schedule speeches for anyone else coming up next week, November 30th, or into December?
Now, December, I would love to do December 7th.
Okay,
Next week is 16th, right?
yes, next week, 16th.
And we're meeting on that day and the other speakers.
There's one speaker so far
They're speaking
next week.
next week, right?
Would you like to schedule a speech?
For
We can
16th?
do two
Oh,
on the
okay.
same day
Yeah, we can do one. We can do one, 16.
for next week. Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
And then Chanel, you could put me down on the 30th. So the speech that I'm supposed to give, I think it's like a 5 to 7 minute. And then it requires like 12 to 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. I think that's what they said. So I don't know if we'll either not have two speeches in a table topics or how we do that, but I might only need to be on, one on one day for that.
Okay, I have to do the same speech that you're doing.
Oh, okay.
We probably won't have time to do them on the same day.
7th. So maybe we'll 7th.
Well, you were scheduled for today, so we can put you down on the 30th.
Well, it doesn't have to be that. Well, you can do yours and then I can do mine after maybe Heather. So so she's going to do hers on the 7th and then maybe we can do it on, what is that, the 14th? So when it gets there, I'll volunteer.
Okay.
Hmm.
For those of you who maybe didn't look at the email, Joey and I both have come to this place in Pathways where we have to do a speech that involves audience participation, where the audience is prepared in advance to actually try to be like difficult and interrupt our speeches in different ways. Practice dealing with it in an appropriate and effective way. So when we send out more information about that for everybody, it will probably be really fun. You will want to
A specific pathway you have that challenge, or all pathway subject will have that challenge?
I don't know.
All of them,
just-
I think all of them do. That's that one, Farron, where you did the podcast. You picked the one to build a podcast. There were like 8 different ones you can pick from. And so this is the distraction one. So you have somebody who's on a phone, you have somebody who's a talker, you have somebody who's, what do you call it? They're more abrasive, right? They're fighting you on what you're saying and different. And so it's, as Chanel and myself, for that speech type, you have to be nice about redirecting that. Yeah, but that's one of them. I think it's in level 4, Michael.
That's a great.
Oh,
Yes, yeah.
Kalani's gonna love that one. Kalani and Farron, I think.
I do a lot of that all the time in my yoga classes.
I volunteer to be the difficult person.
I bet.
All right, so for next week on the 16th, we need 2 evaluators to evaluate Karen and Michael's speeches.
Be the
Heather?
evaluator.
Yeah,
What?
and you could throw me in there.
Okay, thank you. I will put myself down as, I don't care what I do. Denny, do you have a preference? Kalani, would you like to be Toastmaster if you're able to be here?
Yeah, it'd be fine.
we need more people to come in person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'd be there if I didn't have to pick up my girl kindergarten. It's like a half day, so I have to pick her up at 11:40, or I'd be there.
Mhm.
Danny, do you want to be general evaluator?
Yep.
I'll put you down for table topics.
Oh, somebody else general evaluator?
Table topics today, and I'll put myself down for general evaluator.
So what will I be doing?
Table topics.
table topics.
Okay, for next week.
Yeah.
All right. And Mike Ellis, where are you at on, did you join the club? Did you join the club? I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was a member. Yeah, he was a member for a couple years, I think, Mike, right?
Yeah, I think in 2000 last year, it lapsed, or I haven't renewed it.
2019, I think, right before the pandemic, I think, right, Mike?
Right. So I'm wondering, are you wanting to renew and join as a member, or are you just still kind of visiting as a guest?
Tuesdays is the kind of the craziest days for me, and I would like to kind of show up in person. And but I think I would love to be renew my membership, and so I think next week when I have a little more time to talk to Joey,
Yep.
I'll go ahead and do it. Do you have my email still, Joey, by any chance?
I think I do. You know what? Why don't we do this? Let me put my phone number in the chat and just text me, reach out, and we'll hook up, because it's a little different now that we moved over to the online.
Okay.
Did you do your pathway yet or no? You haven't done-
I was in Pathways, yeah.
Oh, you were in pathways. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's my number in the chat. Just text me and we'll connect and get you all set up.
Cool, Joey. Thank you.
You got it, brother. Good to see you.
All right, thank you, Joey. Does anybody have any questions, comments, complaints before we, Heather?
Yeah, question. Last week or two ago, I had completed the level 1 of the presentation mastery, but it says that it's still pending. Is it you, Chanel, as the president, that needs to approve that? I'm just not sure on the process.
I think it might be Farron. She'll go in and
Oh, okay.
It's me, but I didn't get a notification. Let me check.
Okay. Well, if you need me to resend anything or redo anything, just let me know.
Okay. I'll
yeah,
check it.
Toastmaster system is so goofy. So when you guys submit your speech through there,
Mhm.
just reach out to one of us, whether it's any of the board
Okay.
members, and just make sure, within 24 hours or so we can get that in.
Okay.
I used to get an email when that happened, and I haven't
Right.
gotten anything. So.
Yeah, their system's so screwy. So
Okay.
Oh, I see it. I'll approve it right now.
boom.
You. That was it.
And now you're gonna get another one, Farron.
Cool. And Chanel, I just approved yours as well.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Janelle, how'd the adapter work? Look good.
It's working. Yep, I got it put on.
Cool.
Yep. All right. With that, I will adjourn the meeting. I hope that everybody has a really good week.
All right. Have a good week, everybody.
Bye.